So it comes within the eighth one. Ishana pranada prano Jyestha Shreshtha prajapatihi. Prano. One who is the life force behind all life. Prana is the life force in a body-mind complex. Lord Vishnu, who is the supreme being, is the life force behind this life force. Upanishads say that the supreme being is pranasya prana, the life force behind the life force. Prana also means mukhya prana, the life force that is breath in and breathed out. The Lord gives to the air that we breathe the capacity to sustain life. In other words, the life force exists in all things, all living things, is how it is seen. Does it mean that, okay, Vishnu exists in one place, so he cannot exist in another? Or is he going to divide himself into many parts and start existing in each one? I think it's clarified, God clarifies in a statement in the Bhagavad Gita where he articulates that I exist in every being, and the universe exists in me, and uses the phrase Sutre Manigana Iva. I exist like a thread that holds all beads together and make a garland. I exist in all being like that thread that stitches all those beads together. I am the life force that makes everything. So there's that concept that we just a moment talked about, the full and the part. That means is the life force that the God is divided into pieces and exists in small. So in order to, I think, understand better, we'll have to call upon our old friend from the physics laboratory in the Hadron Collider and take their help, in which, in their measure, right, which is why is it they have so much of investment into this Indian philosophy that at the very entrance they have the Ishvara's Nataraja figure, which is close to like 12 feet tall or something. Huge one, not small one, a huge one. And they have taken so much of inspiration that the dilemmas they have found that they are experiencing and in measuring, they find answers there. And one of the things that they observe, talking about has God divided himself into smaller parts and exists in all of us, whereas the full part is somewhere in the heaven above. He clarifies about where he exists also. We'll learn that in the other two names that comes up. But coming into this whole thing, this physics lab that who came and spoke to us, I think in few earlier one where we understood the Shiva aspect of it, he writes like so, which I'll just read it out. When two particles collide with high energy, that is what they do. They take particles and they burst it one with the other and break into smaller pieces. So when two particles collide with high energy, they generally break into pieces. But these pieces are not smaller than the original particle. They are again particles of the same kind. So, hence proved that Lord exists not just above, but also in full, in everywhere, if it's that big particle. And again, we had clarified to ourselves, just to repeat who might have missed out. And I said, hey, please take note of it, register in your mind that religion calls it God, the philosophies or the spiritualities call it Atman and Brahman, and science calls it field, is where we attempted to recognize the living force that exists and mobilizes everything. We'll go to the next one. So, and of course, I think at the end, when we conclude, we also do the Shanti mantra called Purnamada Purnamidam, which essentially translates to going back to, I think it comes in Shvetashvara Upanishad, where the teacher tells the student when he goes on saying, oh, I can see a tree, which means you're seeing big things and you're breaking up into smaller things. That's what investigation the teacher asked the student to do. which is what you do in science too, right? Out there, they broke a big molecule into atoms, is what was discovered. Then they started discovering electrons also within the atom. Then they found that, oh, there's a nucleus also into that atom. They started investigating more into the nucleus, and they started finding that you have protons and neutrons, and they started going deeper, and they started finding all this particle, and that's what this particle physics is. Same way in the Shvetashvara Upanishad too, the teacher asks the student, tell me what you see in the tree. And he talks of all the leaves, the branches, and goes deeper, deeper. At one point, he says, no, there's nothing more. And he says, okay, this is where your faculties won't apply anymore. And he warns him, Sukshma mevat Shvetaketu. You have to now become very subtle. You have to feel it, right? You have to bring your mind into very subtlety to experience it. And that's exactly what these guys have started saying, that, oh, I have to read Upanishads to understand the science I'm experiencing here. So that Purnamada essentially is another thing that comes in those Upanishads, that talks of that is full and this is also full. When you take apart from that full, what remains is full. And when you take the whole from that full, what remains is also full. What remains with you is also full. So it is a very interesting one, which science too seems to be speaking the same thing, where this particle that was collided with broke into thousand smaller ones, but each of those pieces was equal to the very particle that you started with, which is a very, very interesting observation. We go to the next one, Jyestha, which is one who is the oldest of all. Awareness manifested itself first, everything else appeared later in awareness. Time is in awareness, space is in awareness, stars are in awareness, the earth is in awareness. Everything that we know is in awareness. If it is not in awareness, it does not exist. Awareness is thus the oldest of all. Vishnu is that awareness who is the oldest of all. This is very, very, very interesting, at least to me. Uh, the whole underlying Indian belief is nothing comes out of nothing. If there is something, it should have come from something. That's the logical or the tarka argument they give. Magic cannot happen. It has to have come from somewhere. And here we talk of the Big Bang, where everything came from. And in our philosophy, it recognizes that there was one Hiranyagarbha, right? That's the word that is used, which means it's the golden egg through which everything came forth. Maybe the golden color or the brightness of the stars, or one single force of light through which all thing existing came together. So this name essentially recognizes that primordial force, the one before all else, from everything came. So here it is recognized as Jyestha, or the eldest, or the one that came before all thing else. We'll go to the next one. Shreshtha, one who is the most superior. Shreshtha means the most superior one. The supreme being, Vishnu, is among the 12 Adityas. He is Indra among the celestial gods. He is Shankara among the Rudras. He is the self in every being. He is the self in every being. He is beyond cause and effect. He is the most superior entity in the universe. It is said in the Vibhuti Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, that is chapter 10, sloka 41, that wherever there is Vibhuti, or the special splendor of the God, special quality of the God, that's the translation of Vibhuti, it is nothing but an element of the Amsha of Vishnu. Uh, so, this is something maybe we might have experienced in our own everyday living, where when we recognize something magical, or oh, I got lucky, so, I didn't expect it, something happened, or maybe there's something really big. You have a completely uplifting humanity effect too, that is known. Uh, or felt through, or maybe it was like a freedom movement that we have studied in our Indian history, where yeah, you had a Mahatma Gandhi like one who aggregated everyone together and mobilized the country to take a struggle to find that freedom expression, or maybe it was the in the Northern American belt there was the slave trade that had happened, and that too had to be emancipated. And you had the Abraham Lincoln, who too again they were no prominent person; they were as much as two leg and two hands and same eyes and body, but their expression or their personality shone through in a different way. So we said earlier too that Sutre Manigana Ivatu, that is, I exist in all. That is what is cited here too. So this vibhuti or the splendor does show in each of us. I think if we give it a passage. So maybe that Abraham Lincoln, that Mahatma Gandhi, and the Nelson Mandelas allowed that splendor to come through. So higher on we need to allow for this higher light to come through the passages that are there, uh, and those who are able to turn that tap much more higher had that splendor come through better. And those of us who are still working on the tap, maybe it comes out in a weaker dribble like the water coming out of the tap. So I think our uh, yes, efforts has been always to recognize that splendor that is all inside us. So it's essentially the vibhuti emphasis here is it's not a God that is far away in some heaven or in the sky. That God exists very, very, very close to you. That God exists next to you. That God exists within you. So, yes, we are all humans. In a way, we consume God through our senses to start with, right? Which means I worship God in a picture, I worship God in an idol, I may do through my ears consume God through the bhajans or like the stotras we are doing, or I may consume through my taste buds through the Tirupati Prasada as well, right? So, consuming or a godliness is all wonderful practice. Absolutely. All thing that we consume through our senses is perfectly wonderful practice. We have to now work also on the practice of turning that little tap and become those bigger personalities, allow our personality to grow to the capacity that has been driving the universe that also exists in us. We also need to start working on increasing the tap flow and recognize that bigger God so that we just not consume through the faculties or the senses godliness, but we also feel the God splendor within us, the vibhuti within us.